10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me. This is Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. Happy to be here with you because I appreciate you. I thank you, each and every one of you. You guys make it all worthwhile, and I want to thank you for that. Been having technical issues today on this Monday. I don't know why. And I was just trying to do this, the podcast on YouTube, and it didn't go through, but we thank you. There it is, the sound. All right. We thank you for being here with us. We appreciate each and every one of you. So I'm redoing this. I tried to put it onto Facebook. It did not go over. It had some technical issues, so it didn't record. But let me talk about it here very quickly. What I wanted to address is Chuck Schumer. Senator Chuck Schumer came into Binghamton, New York today. Now, this is something that's very rare. He almost never shows up unless he has something to announce. He only shows up to make an announcement, and then he leaves immediately afterwards, doesn't take questions, and doesn't really help anyone. It's just a dog and pony show. That's what they call it, to be able to hype himself and what he's accomplished over time. Now, in this... he came into Binghamton today, and his goal was to speak about a very specific issue. He wanted to talk about hemp. And the fact is that in New York State, we now have the ability to bring in hemp, which is, most people would think of marijuana, but it's actually a plant, doesn't have the THC, which is the psychoactive element, and they use it to make clothing and fibrous materials. Anything you can make with cloth, you can make with hemp, essentially. And so it's a big deal. And in fact, Assemblywoman Donna Lupardo has been working on this for years. I've been speaking with her several times, even most recently in 2018, had an interview with her talking about her efforts to bring hemp into the Southern Tier and into New York State as a means to create innovation, a new business, a new industry that could help elevate New York State, because we need it badly. And she was able to do this. It's one of the reasons why she's the fourth most powerful person in the New York State Assembly, as it said, and she's done a great job. So she was able to do that. And coming in on the heels of her work of many years, Chuck Schumer jumped into New York, and he came in with an announcement. His announcement was that now we are going to see $100 million, maybe $150 million business come into the Southern Tier. It's going to bring in 400 jobs. It's going to bring in other businesses, and everyone is going to be happy. Everyone is going to be better off. That's what he said. Essentially, if you listen to his actual press conference, he starts off saying that there will be 400 jobs and that there is a business, it's a deal, a Canadian company is coming into New York State. They're going to create 400 jobs. It's going to bring in $150 million. And it's only once he did take questions, which is unusual for him. But once he took the questions, that's when he went back and corrected himself, because it's not a deal for $150 million. It's not 400 jobs. It's not, most importantly, it's not happening tomorrow. What is it really going on? Well, eventually, if the deal is signed, because there is no contract that is signed at this time, he does expect that it's going to sign in the next couple of days, but there is no deal. And if the deal closes, as Chuck Schumer has said, and we find out where it will be, because there is no location for this either, then anywhere between $100 million and $150 million is estimated that will be brought into the Southern Tier of New York. And if that happens, there should be several hundred jobs, potentially up to 400 jobs, that may be created at some point over the next several years. By the way, the investment of $100 million to $150 million will happen somewhere in the next several months, if not the next year. Now, these are big things. They make a big difference because he starts off saying this is all happening. It's a done deal. It's going to happen tomorrow. We're going to have jobs, which would significantly boost the employment rate in the southern tier of New York, which is very necessary. We're one of the least successful in employment in New York State, and we've been having a big problem with that. So we do need this. But the fact is, he's promising things that aren't actually happening. And he does it that way, like most politicians, because he knows that when it fails to hit the objectives that he's just said, he can turn around and say, well, I didn't say it was exactly going to happen. I didn't say it was going to exactly happen in that time frame. It's duplicitous. And we shouldn't accept this from any politician. No politician should we accept this from. The fact is that Chuck Schumer knows for a fact that the deal is not done, the location is not done, that there may well not be 400 jobs. And if there even are, it's going to take several years to get that. We don't know if most of those jobs are going to be from Canadians. The company that came in, by the way, is called Canopy Canada. Canopy Hemp. And they're coming in from Canada. So they're going to bring in Canadians. Now, it still can help the southern tier. They'll rent, they'll go out to restaurants, they'll go to bars. Fantastic. Not quite the same thing. But at the end of the day, this business is going to be generating, yes, they may generate $100 million or more on the industry. That money is going to Canada. It's not coming to the United States. It's going to Canada. It's a Canadian company. The money goes back to Canada. It doesn't help New York State and the United States. Some of those businesses, some of those positions are coming from Canada, which is cutting down on the number of jobs here in the southern tier that could possibly go into it. And that makes a big difference because we've heard this before. We hear this a lot. Remember the drone testing site? I know a lot of people may forget about that. That was in 2013 and 2014, and we were promised by Chuck Schumer and Anthony Brindisi and several other politicians, Richard Hanna at the time, promised us we would have 2,000 jobs that would be created and $70 million would be brought into New York State. And this was going to be a win. It was going to revitalize New York State. The reality is that we've spent over $250 million on the drone testing site. It created an actual 11 jobs that have been confirmed, full-time jobs, at a cost of about $23 million per job, which makes the Obama stimulus look like a joke. $23 million per job, and has not hit any of the targets that it mentioned. By the way, it's not we were promised that the New York's drone testing center would be the gem of the United States. It would be the center of drones in the nation. And in fact, the drone testing site at Griffiths International Airport has been rejected from the federal pilot programs and the continuation. So it's failed completely. And we've heard this again. And now forget about the drones. We've heard about with the Buffalo Billions. We've heard it about the Nano Center. Over and over again, we hear these politicians, in particular Chuck Schumer, dropping in saying, this is some great news. It's ground-shaking news. This is going to be a game changer. And then they leave, and nothing changes. Because the economics of New York don't allow business growth in New York. We have to import it. And by the way, to bring in this company from Canada into New York State, how much money did we have to give up? What is it costing taxpayers? Because is it like Amazon, which we had to give up $4 billion just to bring Amazon in for 23,000 jobs? Is it that kind of a deal? Because Chuck Schumer wouldn't say. And since the contract isn't done, he couldn't say. But that's a big deal. That makes a difference. If this is not going to bring in tax revenue into the southern tier of New York, then it doesn't really help a lot of people. If it eventually will create jobs, it doesn't help people short term. And that's a big deal. That makes a difference. And he mentions, oh, there's so many other companies that are coming in, Chuck Schumer did. What companies? These other mysterious companies that will suddenly join into the Southern Tier to follow the hemp company. Where are they coming from? Who are these businesses? Please give us more. Because we've heard this before, over and over again. Now, again, I don't want to take away from Assemblywoman Donna Lopardo, who I've spoken with. We've had many good conversations. I know this is a passion of hers, and this is something that's important. And I am sure that if the deal can be made, she's going to work on it and make sure it happens. And I salute her on her dedication and her effort. And I'm glad to see that it's coming to fruition. What I'm upset about is when we see these politicians come in and mislead the public on the reality of the time frame, the cost, and the capability of these kind of deals. And the news media should really call them out. And, you can look at my Twitter page, you can look at my Facebook page, you'll see, I mentioned right after the meeting, I mentioned this question, or made this statement that you're going to see headlines, and we are already, saying that, this deal is $150 million. It's not. We don't know how much it is. You're going to see headlines that say that 400 jobs are being created. They're not. They may eventually get there, but that's not a guarantee, and we don't know that. There's a lot of promises that are being made in headlines that people are going to assume is true and get their expectations up, and they're nowhere near true. They're not even close. And it's upsetting that we get to allow such deception from a politician to the people. It should never be allowed. It's good to have good news. It's good to say that things are going to be positive down the road, but don't misrepresent the situation. It doesn't help anyone. It doesn't make things better. It didn't help Utica with the drone testing site, making promises of thousands of jobs and tens of thousands of tax revenue coming into the state that never happened. It didn't help anyone. But, the other thing I want to mention, Chuck Schumer comes into town. How dare he make the statement, as he did in the press conference, that he says, okay, I'm going to take questions, as he should. But he says to the assembled media, I'm not going to take questions on any other subject except the hemp. Well, wait a minute. You are the minority leader in the Senate. The government is shut down. Currently at 24 days, the longest shutdown of the government ever. And this is an issue that affects 330 million people. And Senator Schumer, you decide that you can tell the press what they can and cannot ask questions about. You decide what the public can and cannot have a question answered about. How dare you? I'm upset with everybody in the media, and I know many of them who were there, and I understand why, but someone should have asked him, Minority Leader Senator Schumer, please tell us what's going on with the government shutdown. Please tell us why you refuse to provide $5 billion to build a wall when you are actively looking to advocate for somewhere between $1.3 to $32 trillion for objectives on your party, whether that's the New Green Deal under Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or the Medicare for All, or forgiving student loans, or making colleges free. There's a bunch of these issues that you're just trying to give out our money, trillions of dollars, and yet you don't want to talk about why you won't give out $5 billion, essentially a rounding error in the accounting for the United States that spends $4 trillion a year. It's ridiculous. This is ridiculous. And how dare you tell the public that you won't answer a question about that when it is the most pressing question in the nation? I'm glad that he was in Binghamton. I'm glad he's saying there's eventually, keyword, that eventually good news that's going to come out. And I'm glad that we're all going to hear about that. But quite honestly, it's not the most pressing news that I want to hear from the Senate minority leader. I want to hear about the government shutdown. How dare he deny the press and the public the ability to speak about that. That's not right. But my time's up, as you heard. It's a short podcast. I just wanted to speak about this. These are the things that caught my attention, my initial reaction about Chuck Schumer being here in Binghamton, New York. This is the No Sound Bites Allowed podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do respond and give me your comments. Maybe you think I'm right. Maybe you think I'm wrong. Maybe you think it's a big deal or not. I don't know. But let's find out. Do get in touch with us, and we'll talk to you again all very soon. I hope everyone has a great day.